Hi guys, welcome to the Peppermint Apes podcast. This is episode 4. In this video we're going to be joined by the fantastic Zach Levine, who played saxophone in our 1975 cover. If you're too shy, let me know. So we're going to talk to Zach and also talk about our musical influences. So please subscribe, leave us a comment and enjoy the video.
But even so, this needs starting because ooh la la.
So guys, it was good fun finally releasing that video, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, it was nice to get it out there.
First video in a while, wasn't it?
It was like 5 years, something like that. 6 years.
Yeah, well, in terms of a proper video, I know we did a live acoustic video of Take It Easy, the Eagles, with Josh and Sam 8 months ago now, wasn't it? But as like a proper recorded video, yeah, about 5-6 years now. No, Lewis, you're going to host this podcast, as I know it was your idea to suggest the 1975 song, so over to you, my friend.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, obviously, as we said, we've got a very, very special guest on today in Zach, who we're going to introduce and talk to in a second. But yeah, basically, it's a song that's not actually out yet. So we've actually released it prior to the song being released, which is quite unique. And yeah, it basically came about. Obviously, I'm a really big fan of the band. Sam, you are as well, and Ryan, you've become a fan in recent years. And on their tour in February, I went with the wife to see him at the O2 in London. And during the set, they just played this one random song. Like they said, "Oh, it's going to be a new song," and they played it. And I was just blown away. It was so good. And I know Zach's seen the videos on YouTube as well and loved it. And yeah, I was just absolutely blown away that night. And it was in my head for like 2 or 3 days afterwards. And I just kept jumping back onto YouTube to see sort of some of the live videos of the song. And yeah, it just kept nagging me, thinking I'd love to do something with this, but you know, one of those songs that you just cannot get out of your head, whatever you do. And so I thought, yeah, this would be awesome if we did it. And so I was just thought I'd browse a bit of YouTube just to see what was out there. And saw a couple of covers, a couple of instrumentals. And then I came across one particular video, one special video, and there was this young gentleman absolutely killing it on the sax. And I just thought this was so cool because you don't often see, you know, like instruments like sax, violin, you know, anything like that really, or at least I don't really tend to see that on pop songs or things like that. And I thought, oh, this is awesome. Like someone has done 40 seconds of this awesome solo and yeah, I was just absolutely blown away. And so when we decided to do the song, obviously, and we spoke about it, I mean, Sam, obviously, just to give you some background on the song as well, usually when you record a cover video like this, obviously you've got the song exists, you've got some framework to work with, to learn the structure, to learn the chords, all the vocal lines. But with this, there was absolutely nothing. And so all we had to put this song together was a live YouTube version. And we basically used the audio and just tried to piece it together from the ground up. So piece the drums, work out the guitars, work out the bass patterns, and just stack it up. And as it started to go on, we just felt there was one bit missing. We had, Sam, you'll be able to elaborate on this, but we had obviously a kind of a VST, a virtual instrument of the saxophone solo, didn't we?
We did, yeah. So, like you say, we had to build up right from the ground up, and we obviously I fired up my music software and got the song, and I managed to tap along to the tempo and worked out a rough tempo to it. But as we built up, you guys done a great job because there was videos on YouTube, thankfully, wasn't there, of people doing bass covers, guitar covers, and vocal covers already. So we was able to use them as a guide to learn the parts. And then, yeah, the biggest part in this song is the sax solo, and I've managed to. I typed in on Google, you know, free VST saxes, and there was paid for ones, there was freeware as well. So I downloaded a few different ones. I spent about 2 days trying to work out what the best ones were, and then I actually watched Zach's video, and I sat with my software open, and I was copying note for note his solo into my software. But it sounded okay, but it just did not sound good enough. And I went with it, mixed it in, thought I had some synths to it as well. And then come up with that, and I sent it over to you guys, and quite rightly you all said, yeah, it sounds good, but it's just not, you know, screaming out to us. So, and that's where you said, Lou, that you watched it originally from Zach, and luckily I watched Zach's video and I saw an email address on it, and I thought, right, there we go. I'm gonna just message him. And so I sent Zach an email. Hi Zach, my name's Sam. We're loved your video of the saxophone solo you done of not Peppermint Apes of the 1975, and we was wondering if you could help us out doing a version for us. And 20 minutes later, Zach came back to us. Yep, no problem at all. And then it all went from there. And we were just chatting, and I let you guys know, and I think you guys were happy with it as well. And then we just went ahead and done it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I thought Zach was fantastic and just such a nice, approachable guy as well. And it really made it, didn't it? I mean, Sam, you had a really good go, with the synth sax, and you did a good job of it, but you could tell it just was lacking. You can tell
it was a synth. It didn't, because when you was doing the intricate notes, you weren't getting the it's the only way I can describe it is like the pitch bend from a note to note. You could hear that it was skipping on the notes, so it sounded too synthesized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then when obviously we heard Zach's saxophone, it was just fantastic. Sorry, Chris, what was you going to say?
I was just saying it's very difficult to synthesize, I suppose, those kind of instruments, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Instruments like strings and pianos, they've been around for donkey's years, so I think that you can synthesize them quite easily. But when it comes to the sax and brass instruments, I find also that bass is quite a hard instrument. And we all know guitar is awful to synthesize because it just sounds too robotic. But bass I find quite hard to synthesize as well. But going back to the saxophone, any brass instruments, yeah, unless you've got a absolutely amazing VST through like a contact player or something, which is a built-in bit of software you can get to load VSTs onto, and you buy something like Native Strings or something, then yeah, freeware there are very, very good freeware engines out there, which is what I personally use, and a lot of people do use them because they do the job. But yeah, it just didn't work for the sax, unfortunately.
There is some Lewis probably knows this as well. Roland do a guitar synth, which is like, it's a small pickup that goes on the bridge pickup. It just attaches to it, and you go into like similar to your pedal board, Ryan, that you used on your guitar. It's like you can synthesize loads of different instruments using the guitar, so you get that natural feel from the playing the guitar, and you can get closer to getting the pitch bends and stuff with that. But still, it's not spot on. It never would be, but.
No, and it's always tricky to replicate sounds. I mean, they're getting better, they're getting more advanced now, but I think especially if anything that requires replicating breath or sort of movement from that perspective, it's never going to be accurate. But Sam, you certainly gave it a good try, but when Zach sort of came along, and between you and Lou, with the communication and found Zach, I thought it just really sort of added to it, and it was you could tell that he was a massive fan of the band, the 1975, which is. The performance he gave, and it was great, because I've got to be honest, guys, when you first suggested the actual song, I like the 1975. I'm not as a hardcore fan like you are, Lou, but I really like them. I think they're a really good band, and I listened to it and I thought, yes, it's a good tune, but it didn't do anything for me. But then as we've sort of been playing it, and as we've been recording it, and as we've sort of watched it back, I've actually started to the song's really grown on me. I really like it. I mean, what do you guys think about the song?
I mean, I was the same as you, Ryan, really. I mean, Lewis sent it to me probably months before we actually did it. I was driving home from work and I got it. It's like, sat in traffic. I was like, a text from Lewis. And it was like, oh, you got to listen to this, the 80s guitar sound. You can have an eargasm. And I was just like... I was like, all right, I'll give it a listen.
An eargasm.
And I thought, I was like, I really like it, but it's the same as you, Ryan. It didn't like... didn't grab me by any means. But yeah, no, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it just kind of, it's one of those songs. It's different when you hear something live, but it really, I thought it just was so cool. And but yeah, like you say, so then we obviously filmed the video, we made the thing, and obviously Sam was obviously speaking with Zach, and Zach was kind enough to re-record his take for us as well. To really add something to it, and he actually had the sort of demo mix of what we'd done to actually work with, so he played completely with the track. But yeah, and that was it. We released it as the time of filming this just over a week ago, and it's really nice to finally have it out there. And people are pleased, but we're pleased, but people seem to be really enjoying it, which is really nice for us. And so I guess on that bassist. I don't know if anyone who's watching this, obviously if you're listening to this, you can't see anything, but on our screen we've got a different face to someone, to the normal four of us. And I think it's time to introduce the man himself, because we thought, what better way to talk about the song and to talk more about himself and his influences and his playing and his musical journey than Zach himself. So let's. I think we should all give Zach a warm welcome and say welcome onto the podcast. And how you doing, Zach?
I'm doing well, Lou. Thanks for having me, guys. Nice to see all of you.
It's great to see you too. I think we had a chat midweek with Zach just to say hello, just so it wasn't so strange to see four strange Brits on a screen, you know. So
or one strange American.
We're quite the group, eh? So with that said, how are you, Zach?
I'm doing well. Just we're sheltered in place here in California, so plenty of time to get into some music stuff, which is one of the reasons why, you know, Sam describes me as responding 20 minutes later, is because I did respond 20 minutes later. I mean, I'm just hanging out at home. You know, it's when you're at home, you just kind of get like bored sometimes, especially during these times. So when he said, hey, you know, we're looking to do a cover of this, he's like, can I use your track? And I was like, you could, or I could re-record it because I've got time.
It's
so
rare
glad
that not many people ever will do that. You know, not only can we use your track, but yeah, sure, I'll do you one better and I'll record it for you.
Yeah, I mean, Sam seemed like a nice guy. You know, I don't really get a lot. I always put my email in the description of my videos, but I don't really get a lot of emails from people other than people asking for sheet music. Which is funny because Sam told me that he used my video to transcribe the solo, but I actually wrote it out myself and put it in my description, but Sam didn't see it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I did. I was sitting there for hours and just putting the MIDI tabs in the software, just going up and down the scale so I hit what note I was doing. That's how I've done it.
It took me about 20 minutes to write it out in music software.
Jesus. Sam just wanted to seem busy.
That's it. Yeah, just I looked busy, didn't I?
Yeah. I get that.
Oh, God. So, Zach, tell us a little bit about, obviously we mentioned a little bit how we approached you as well, but tell us a little bit of, you know, how you've been a fan of the band and obviously what made you choose that song, or what parts of the band you sort of originally made you your fan, because obviously by the same token it's not out yet. So, and obviously being so far away, just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I remember the moment I got into the band because one of my good friends sent me this message on Facebook, and he said, hey, I just went to this small kind of concert thing. At the time I lived down in Southern California, and I think it was like, I don't think it was Lollapalooza or something like that though, but it was in SoCal. And he says, I think you really like this song. Like, there's a nice saxophone solo in it. It's called Hard Out by the 1975. I'm sure you know, Lou, but I'm not sure if you other guys know that song. But it's one of my favorites by them. Any song with a saxophone solo, I'm obviously drawn to. But I listened to this, and I was like, wow, their sax player is incredible. Like, I really like this. And that's kind of how I got into them. And over the course of the last, 5 years, they've put out, this is their fourth album coming out. And some of the songs have had saxophone solos in it. And again, the same friend who got me into this band sent me a message in February and says, hey, check out this unreleased song. I think you'd really like it. And I started listening to it, and I'm grooving along to it, and I was like, wow, I really do like this song. And I heard the sax parts in the chorus, and I was like, yeah, this is great. And then the saxophone solo hit, and I was like, oh, this is my favorite song. And I was just, wow, this is incredible. And so I think it came out on the 15th of February is when they debuted it. I recorded it, I covered it, I learned the song in like 2 days, and I put it out on the 19th. I was just so excited. And I don't normally do that on YouTube because I don't usually like take popular stuff and just record it for the sake of views. And this wasn't even for the sake of views. This was just because I loved the song so much and I loved the solo. Kind of like how you were talking about, Lou, when you said you saw them. It was just like, whoa, this is kind of mesmerizing. That's how I felt watching a live video, and that almost never happens. I don't usually watch live videos because you hear a lot of distortion, a lot of people screaming along. But the first day, no one knew the song. So no one was like screaming along. They were all just kind of absorbing it just like I was when I listened to it the first time. So that was really cool.
That's awesome. And so the fact, like when you're working out a solo like that, like you said, over sort of 2 days, was it because obviously the one thing that we all found really interesting about yourself, and obviously the instrument that you play, is it's so different to what we do, more traditional, guitar, bass, all that. We know how we learn songs and things like that, and how we work it out, but your world is totally different. So, I mean, do do you just work
Yeah.
with the scales and you work out the notes, you work out the key? You know, was it quite hard to do for that one?
Yeah, I mean, I start with the key always just because, you know, songs that are rock songs, pop songs, indie pop songs, however you want to call this group, they always kind of take a key and kind of stay there for the most part. They do have a few songs that actually change keys a couple times, but I could just tell from listening through that this was just a really feel-good, upbeat kind of song that stays in one key. So I figured out, it's in D major. So okay, now I know what the key is. But it's more complicated than that because it's in D major, but there's a lot of like chromatic notes that John Waugh, the saxophone player, plays that aren't in the key of D major, I'm sorry. But at the same time, like I don't know how it is when you play guitar or drums or bass, but when I'm hearing a saxophone player play, when they're doing turns or they're doing bends and stuff like that, I can just kind of like hear it pretty naturally where it's going to because I've played similar things in my time on the saxophone. So it took me I'd say it took me about half an hour to figure out the whole thing just by ear. And then it took me a lot longer to practice it and get it to the point where I wanted to record it. That was the tricky thing. He hits a really particularly difficult note. It's a F sharp 5, I think, at the end. And that one is very tough to hit. And even he has like cracked it in concert. So I don't feel so bad when I'm practicing and I mess it up because even he does it. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I went about that. I just kind of figure out the key and then just figure out it's tough too when you're listening to the audio, the live audio. Like there were a couple notes in my original take that I put up on YouTube that were actually not correct. Like I played the first note down an octave by mistake. I could hear the E, or for me on the saxophone, it's an E. But at the same time, he's playing an octave higher. But I just couldn't hear that because, you know, like it just doesn't come across so well from an iPhone recording. So I didn't hear I just heard the low tone. I didn't hear the actual high E. So stuff like that happens, and you just kind of roll with it, which is part of the reason why when Sam contacted me, I thought I would love to re-record this because since that first version came out that I did, other versions have come out where I can clearly hear what all the notes are. And that's at that point when I actually transcribed it. So I transcribed it like a few days after I put it out, but I didn't really feel like re-recording, and it was already by far the most popular video on my channel, so I didn't want to take it down.
Yeah. I mean, how many views have you had on your own video now? I think it's been over.
I checked today, and it's like at 3,050.
Nice.
Doing well, man.
Which, you know, for a YouTube video is obviously not a lot, but I have 63 subscribers at the moment, so it is a lot.
Growing. Growing.
I put out, yeah, exactly, relatively. I put out other videos, and they'll get like 70 views or 100 views, but this one's pretty popular. My second most popular video is another 1975 cover I did. I covered their guitar solo and the sound. So I guess the 1975 fans are coming out to the channel, so that's good.
I mean, I've got a question for you, Zach. I mean, I know Lewis is going to ask quite a lot about your instrument, but I mean, one of the purposes behind this podcast is obviously for people to talk about the band and what we do, but we like to sort of inspire other musicians that want to be YouTubers, etc. What would be your advice to musicians that want to kind of make it, whether they're, they play the saxophone, whether they're singers? What would be your advice to musicians trying to make it at the moment?
Make it on YouTube, you mean?
Yeah, just in general. If people want to make it on YouTube or they want to be successful in music, what would be if you were speaking to a young band or a young musician, what would be your advice to people?
Yeah, I'd say that you want to really play things that you really truly enjoy, because people can tell when you enjoy what you're doing, and it means a lot to them, right? That's why when you have if you just have an audio clip and you send it to someone, they might like it. But if they see a video of you playing it, they can really tell that you're enjoying what you're doing. It just means it's a world difference, And I know I've seen a lot of saxophone channels on YouTube, for instance, that have a ton of subscribers. And what they kind of do is just any like new song that comes out, they just play it. And that's the easiest way to get all the views. So if you want all the views, there's easy ways to do it. Just figure out whatever's buzzing and just cover it immediately. But I mean, for me, the joy of music is just playing it and spreading it to others so that they can enjoy it. And for me, that requires me to play stuff I want to play. So I won't cover things that I don't like. If I don't like it, I'm not going to touch it. But it's kind of a balance between how successful, like how popular do you want to be and how much do you want to look back on the stuff you put out and say, yeah, I really love this. I really love that I did this video. And I really like that these people responded so well to this.
No, good answer. I think there's a lot of people that are just so obsessed with views, and that's not a bad thing if you want to try and be successful. But sometimes, if you're just chasing the views, you sometimes lose your soul and lose. So you've got to be true to yourself as well. So I think it's finding a balance, isn't it? And working out what you want as an individual.
Exactly. I mean, I think about it too, like you think about actors too. Like I've talked with friends about this before, but like Daniel Day-Lewis is an incredible actor, right? How many films has he done? Like 6, 7. But every time he does something, it's incredible, right? That's kind of more what I aspire for. I don't want to put something out unless I feel like, yeah, this is great. This was like for the player I am right now, for the skills I have, for the time I put in, this is the best effort I could put forth. And once I feel like that, then I feel happy to post it. But I see some covers and I just think to myself, yeah, you can just tell that they didn't put a ton of time into this. They kind of just heard the song, learned it, and maybe just got the general idea and just recorded it. Like you said, kind of chasing the views, which isn't a bad thing. But for me, it's only becomes bad when the music, takes a hit because of it.
So just you were just saying for the kind of player you are. So obviously you play the saxophone. How long have you been playing the sax, and what's your experience on the saxophone in terms of bands and collaborating with other artists and gigs and things like that?
Yeah, so I started when I was in 5th grade on the alto saxophone. So 5th grade, I was 10 years old, and I switched over to tenor saxophone, which is what I currently play. What I played in the video a couple years after. And I switched because my teacher told me that no one else was playing the tenor saxophone, so I could be first chair. I was so excited. And so that's kind of how I got into that. And it was cool. Immediately, I kind of liked how diverse the range is. You can go decently low, and you can go high, and with more advanced techniques, you can go even higher, and just as high as like the alto typically goes. So I really liked that. In high school, I played with this alternative rock group named Shoot Up the Cat. The namesake is a diabetic cat taking insulin shots. I had zero part in coming up with that name. And every time I told someone what band I was in, they're like, "Shoot up the what?" And so that was always fun. But they played alt rock stuff. They wrote their own original songs. They were cool. We played at a number of different places. Just really fun. A really nice group of guys that were about a year younger than me in high school. When I got to college, I started playing in this jazz band at Cal, UC Berkeley, where I went to school. And I was in that for about 7 years because I did 4 years of undergrad, a gap year, and 2 years in a master's degree program at Cal. So I was in jazz bands for a while there. They've got a great program over there. The director, Ted Moore, is a great guy who's a fantastic musician himself, and a very dear mentor to me. And it was just really great to, play jazz over there. And then when I kind of graduated from that last year, I moved down to the South Bay, which is where I currently am in California. And I've played with a couple groups out here, but I really haven't found anyone that I really clicked with, But at the same time, in this year and the last year too, I've played saxophone on a number of tracks. I have a friend who's an up-and-coming rapper that I've played on a couple of his songs for, which is really fun for me. I have another friend who makes instrumentals, kind of relaxing things that I played on. And I have a good friend of mine, a really good friend, who's a funk guitarist. And, he plays guitar, bass, and drums. He's kind of crazy.
Multi-instrumental.
Yeah, he went to the Berklee School of Music. He's very talented. And he's coming out with a funk album, hopefully in the next couple months, and I plan a couple tracks on that as well. So I've taken some opportunities where I find them to record on friends' tracks. But currently, this was really exciting for me when you guys contacted me, because I was like, wow, this is great, an opportunity to collaborate. I love collaborating with people. It's just great. Like when you sent me the demo track and all of a sudden I was playing the same saxophone solo, but I was playing it along. It was like I felt like I was playing along with you guys,
Yeah, especially when it's almost like there's no distance really, isn't it? In a time where everyone's kind of trapped at home and so confined, the fact that you can make something like that across massive oceans and stuff is pretty special.
Yeah, when I told my parents, I said, Mom, I'm recording this cover of the saxophone solo I did for this band. She said, a band? I said, yeah, a band. She's like, where are they? I said, in England. She's like, in England? She's like, how are you doing that? And I was like, well, they have their tracks done. They send it to me. I'll send them some audio back. They've got a guy who's going to mix and master it. They've got a guy who's going to put my video in the video. And, she was excited, and I was like, yeah, you should be excited. It's going to turn out better than my videos. My videos are pretty much just, me putting in landscape mode and just kind of record. That's all I really, I don't really have any fancy equipment or anything like that, but obviously Ryan did a great job with the editing. Fantastic stuff. It looked really, it kind of gave off the same feeling that the song gives off itself, and that's really cool too. Like when the video kind of supports the feeling of the song. It felt felt retro and cool, and yeah, I just loved it.
That's the thing, I think, with modern day technology is you haven't got to go over the top with equipment anymore. We've all got iPhones, apart from Ryan and Lewis, because they like to use Android because they're weirdos.
I'm on Android as well.
Oh yeah. Oh well, you three. Me and Zach are the only ones.
Yeah, we're the same. We're the same ones.
Exactly. So you haven't got to go over the top buying very expensive cameras anymore, and we haven't got the world's most expensive recording equipment. I mean, I've got a set of monitors that I've used since I started ever doing audio recording, and between us four, we bought a mixing desk, didn't we? Which we use for our live gigs because we can record 18 channels on it. So it's nothing amazing, and it just goes to show that you haven't got to go to a huge expensive studio to produce something that is of at least CD quality, I'd say, and it is good enough to be released to the public.
No, exactly. And I think you're right. I think more and more people now can literally record at home like we did, but you've still got to have the ear for it. And that's one thing that you've got, Sam, and all of us, including Zach, as musicians, have got the ear in terms of recording. But you're right, you don't need to spend thousands now. And with the edit as well, with Final Cut Pro, thanks for the compliment, Zach, appreciate that. I think what I tried to do, because obviously with people that are watching this, obviously we're going through lockdown at the moment, same with Zach in America. And, so we can't all be together. So we all filmed our parts individually on our iPhones, Androids, and everyone sent me the clips. Sam did the audio mix. And as I was putting the edit together on Final Cut Pro, originally it was going to be just a typical kind of video where I'll just put like the squares together, which we'll do for future videos, and loads of videos are like that. Loads of cover bands, they just put the blocks up, don't they, where you just see the musicians playing their parts. But I just thought I'd try something a little bit different, and I did notice the 1975 at the back on their video screens. They do have the kind of security effects. They have the kind of the retro rendered effects. So I thought I'd try all that, and I probably put too many effects on it. But in the end,
how many video effects can you get in one video? Which I really like, because the 1975, they have that really retro sound. They've got that retro video feel as well. They kind of do everything a bit old school, and that's why I think it worked really, really well.
Yeah.
Video effects and, chorusy guitars, lots of reverb on stuff, big sounding drums, and even layered vocals as well. It just works because that's how they are. And funnily enough, today, I'm not sure whether you got the message, Zach, was... they've actually released the 30-second, on YouTube it's been leaked, a 30-second clip of the actual song. And
yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, and it sounds really good, doesn't it? It's nice to actually hear what we was working, not against, but working to try and match the song before the song's ever come out. Right, yeah. I think it was like a 30-second thing from, I think like a TikTok account, I think it leaked from. There's a lot of debates. Shazam apparently recognizes it as the official song, and UMG put copyright claims on the people that you can still see the video, but you can't monetize it for the 30-second leak. So it looks like it is the real one, but still some people are not certain if it's the actual one or if it's been stuff if it's totally, it has been anything taken away from it or added to it. But it sounded like the real thing to me, and it sounded great. The harmonies are really coming through, which is really nice. It's hard to hear those harmonies in the live versions. Yeah, no, definitely. When's the song due to be released? Do we know roughly the date of the 1975 release yet? Yeah, it's coming out on April 23rd, which is this coming Thursday. Oh, brilliant. Looking forward to it. I guess, well, by the time this is released, that's like tomorrow, right? yeah, it's out tomorrow. So for our listeners and our viewers, today's date is the 19th of April, so by the time this podcast comes out, it may well be already been released, but it's just to let people know that this is the date we're recording this on. And interestingly, on the song, I don't know if you guys, and obviously Zach as well, obviously you're a big fan,
to me, it sounds like they recorded it after they toured it because it sounds a different tempo. I don't know. It just sounds a bit different. It sounds a bit slower, or maybe that's because I'm so used to hearing R1.
I brought that up with my brother because we were talking about it as well. It does sound a little bit slower to me. Just like, like maybe like 5 beats per minute slower. It's not that drastic, but I did kind of like the high energy, quick version they were playing live. But at the same time, if it's a little bit slowed down and the harmonies are nice and rich, there's nothing wrong with that. So, but I don't know. I mean, to answer your question about when they recorded it, it seems like they recorded it, then went and played it live, and then probably added some stuff to the recording that they had. Because I feel like over time too, the live versions got more involved, more busy. I know that John was for sure doing more riffs and runs on the saxophone by like the March gigs, right before the thing started getting canceled. That's why, when I was recording for you guys, I played the saxophone solo, and Sam asked me to play during the courses too, and I said, yeah. And I said, I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna add in a couple things I've been hearing in these live versions too, because they sound great. So I don't know what's gonna be specifically in the live versions, but I'm hoping that they've synthesized all the best elements of the live versions to make the studio recording, even if it is a little bit slower.
Plus, you got to remember as well, whenever you play something live, it always ends up quicker, doesn't it, than what you've actually recorded it at?
This is a little trick that I learned when I used to play in functions bands back in college. The chap who ran the band, he said, always play your songs 5 BPM faster live, just to keep up with the high energy of a concert or a gig. And so that's probably what they've done. The 975 probably sped up by 5 BPM because they're all playing along to backing tracks as well, like what we do. We have the metronome going in our ears, and we play along to all the backing tracks, and that's exactly what they're doing, just on a bigger scale. And they would speed up by 5 BPM, maybe even 10 on some songs, but 5 BPM is usually the standard on a live gig, just to keep that high energy going.
Well, it's like when we play Proud Mary by Tina Turner. We play it in our live set, and we play it a lot faster, don't we, than the original beats per minute. I think
we play it at 160. I have a metronome going in my ears, and before that all kicks in, usually playing obviously slower, but then when we kick it all in, I've got the metronome going at 160 BPM,
Yeah.
So it's high energy, because we tried it at 180, but it just sounded like a pop punk song.
Yeah. Oh, Blink 182.
The all-time low remix.
I want it down the river.
But obviously, Zach, you mentioned John quite a few times, who plays sax in the band. Obviously, sounds like you're a big fan. So tell us a little bit about some of your influences and things. Like when you gravitated towards that instrument so young, what was it about it that kind of you went, oh, that's my thing,
Yeah, so it was before I started playing saxophone that I realized I wanted to play saxophone. My mom used to have this smooth jazz CD in the car by this musician named Dave Koz, who's a prominent smooth jazz saxophonist in America. I'm not sure if he's popular in other places. I know he's popular in some places in Asia too, but he's a great saxophone player. I always would be listening in the car and I heard the way it sounded, like the way it came across, and I was like, yeah, I want to make sounds like that one day. And so, when we had the opportunity in 5th grade, you can choose any of these instruments. I said, I want to play the saxophone. And that's kind of how I got into it. And smooth jazz has been a very big influence in my entire musical career. I just like things that sound nice and sound smooth and sound easy on the ears. And there's lots of cool, R&B, bluesy kind of lines you get to play in it. And that was another thing that was cool about this solo too. I mean, John went to Leeds College for music. Very talented musician, and he's got jazz albums out. He's very diverse. He's very versatile, and that's another thing that I strive for too. Because, I hear a standard, I'll hear a Coltrane song or a Parker song. I'm like, oh, that's great. But I'll also hear I'll hear Junior Walker playing on Urgent by Foreigner, and he's going crazy on the saxophone solo. And I'm like, oh, that sounds great too. I want to play that. Anytime I hear a saxophone, as long as the saxophone player is doing good things, I love it. First time I heard Clarence Clemens, it was mind blowing. Whoa, I'm listening to Born to Run, and all of a sudden this guy is doing this amazing saxophone solo. And I'm working on some Clarence Clemens solos myself right now. They're very, very challenging, not just to get the notes, but to get that raw energy. It's just there's just something so magical about the way he plays, and so. There's just so many little influences, and anytime I hear something I like, it's an influence for me, basically. I don't just say, well, I'm more of this kind of player. I'm whatever kind of player genre I'm playing in, basically. If I'm playing in a rock group, I'm thinking about my rock influences. If I'm playing something like this, I'm thinking about more like kind of like smooth pop kind of styles, you know?
Yeah. And that must be an amazing thing as well as an aspiring musician. Like if you're taking up an instrument like that, you've got such a, as you mentioned, you're influenced by so many genres, but you've got such a like breadth to draw on. You know, you're not limited. Like obviously, there's lots of instruments that are diverse. Like I'll just talk about guitar because that's what I know. But, you know, there's lots of different things, but it has a very specific lane in some capacity. You know, like it seems to be in certain genres and things. Whereas you can turn on a radio station and you can turn through the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, you know, and all these different, completely different genres, and you can hear something. So that must be really special as someone who's growing up and you're learning. You're hearing the radio and you're hearing, as you mentioned, you've played on with rap artists, you've played with sort of smooth jazz, alt rock, pop bands, you know.
I love it all. Yeah, it's just, and you hear so many different types of tones too. Like when you hear other, like I don't know, when you hear guitar players, you know, a guitar player can have like a number of different tones, right? Because you can switch your plugins, I think is what you guys have and stuff like that, or whatever it is you do on guitar. You have different effects. You can put wahs on things. When you hear saxophone players, like, you know, you hear tone from player to player, not just within a player. So it's cool. Like every saxophone player kind of sounds different to you. So there's some saxophone players that I don't really like their sound, and other people love them. And there's other ones that I love and other people don't. And it's just a cool instrument because you can really get such a wide variety and range of different tones. And that's just really always been fascinating. Like if you listen to a 60s song, you might hear a totally different thing than if you listen to like a 80s song or a song from today. So
that's a song I absolutely love on the saxophone is Careless Whisper.
Oh yeah.
You actually about that cover. Yeah, tell us about that, Zach.
You know, that was a very, 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 very popular song when I was in high school because they had that guy Sergio Flores go around all these places and disrupt college lectures and disrupt Walmarts and shopping malls playing it, and they called it the Sexy Sax Man video. And from the second people saw it, you know, every time someone saw me at school, they'd be like, oh, you know, play the Sexy Sax Man song. And I'm like, it's Careless Whisper by George Michael. Come on, we can at least know who it's by and what the title is. But that group, Shoot Up the Cat, that I play with, Shoot Up the Cat, when we were playing, they had me come to this like pep rally thing. And I wasn't even playing with him at the time. I never played with him. They just wanted me to do an intro for them. And of course they said, oh, play Careless Whisper. And so I went up there on stage, my sunglasses on. I just, you know, played as loud as I could. And I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I think of all the times I've played, the loudest people have cheered. And I can't think of any time people have cheered louder than when I played Careless Whisper. So definitely something about that song that really, you know, gets people. And it's just such a, I mean, it's a great song. That's the other thing. I actually love that song. You know, people, I listen to it unironically. I love it. So
how many pair of sunglasses did you have on?
I had 2 pairs of sunglasses on so that I could get up on stage, throw one away, and still have one on.
Nice.
Which, looking back, I'm kind of regretting that I told you that the other day.
If you don't want that in, I'll edit that one out. I don't mind.
No, yeah, I don't mind. I'm just joking.
So, just quickly, I don't want to talk about us as much because we've done podcasts about ourselves. I'm interested. Obviously, Lewis has asked you like why you learn your instrument. He gives us a brilliant, you know, answer to why you've learned it. And saxophone's an amazing instrument. I think most reed and brass instruments are, and I respect players who do it because it's a very difficult instrument to learn. I don't think I'd have the patience to learn it. But like, for instance, Ryan, I know you used to play bass and you started with bass. What influenced you to, you know, play bass? Why did you want to play bass?
Well, I think, you know, growing up, my dad was always a musician. He was always in bands. And he was a bass player, so it was just natural to sort of see him play. And I suppose he was kind of my first musical influence, really, because you grow up, you see your dad as a role model, and when he's a musician, you think, I want to be like him. And yeah, and I sort of picked up the bass. And before I became a front man, and before I was writing songs, that was the instrument that I was learning. And I was heavily influenced by people like Norman Watt-Roy from the Blockheads, Ian Dury and the Blockheads. Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers, you know, I loved the slap bass. Even Paul McCartney, you know, just some of the walking bass lines he did. Just loved it. Just loved playing it, and that was the instrument that I started playing, and it's now quite fresh now to be playing bass again, because obviously for a long time I sort of switched to rhythm guitar. But yeah, love the bass.
And Chris, obviously Chris is the newest member to the Peppermint Apes, and I don't really know your background myself personally. So what influenced you to play guitar, and who are your influences?
So I've always been into rock music, really, from about sort of 7 or 8 years old. But I never played anything till I was about 14, and I just picked up the guitar. The first song I remember hearing is the intro to "Sweet Child of Mine" by Guns N' Roses. So I thought to myself, I've really got to play that. Just loved it. So I dedicated myself, probably, bearing in mind this is someone who's never picked up a guitar before. I dedicated probably about 2 months of trying to learn this song. Managed to learn it. I didn't do the solos or anything, but I got the intro down. I got the rhythm sections sorted. Later on, I've moved on to the solos and stuff. But I think now I kind of went down the wrong path musically. I think I did the mistake that every guitar player does, which is focus so much on trying to play a million notes per second. I just was like, I know the minor pentatonic scale, therefore I know that's going to work over that chord and everything. But it sort of mirrors what you were saying earlier, Zach, about, you hear so much about different saxophone players in different bands, and you can recognise the playing instantly through the note choices they make and the sound they produce. And so I've basically gone back and taught myself everything again, from gone back to the beginning, like musical theory stuff, and tried to sort of break it down and understand it a lot more. So now, my influences probably is, have you heard of a band called the Marcus King Band?
I haven't personally.
Yeah.
No.
Amazing guy.
They're
Yeah.
quite sort of they're known as a jazz-infused psychedelic southern rock band. So they're pretty out there, but it's pretty interesting, like jazz and fusion stuff. I like a band called Buck and Evans, and there's a guitarist called Chris Buck, and he plays a lot of soul-y stuff, and he sort of and so my influences have sort of changed on from not necessarily being just guitar players, but also being singers as well. So everything like Aretha Franklin or anyone like that out of that period, really. So, I mean, I love Otis Redding stuff. So I listen to a lot of that and try and influence that into my guitar playing, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, Lou, so me and you obviously go a long way back to when we was, it must have been 13 years old, 12 years old, whatever, when we first started secondary school. And I know me and you kind of learned our instruments at the same time, but what made you choose the guitar over anything else and influenced you as well?
It's a good question. I mean, with hindsight, when I've realised, like looking back years later with a little bit of wisdom, I realised like my parents always listened to great music. They had a bit of everything, so I always liked a bit of everything. And I was always sort of trying to find what I wanted to do as a kid. I did a lot of martial arts, I did a lot of like sports and things, and I really enjoyed everything, but there wasn't necessarily one thing that really clicked. And then one day in a school assembly, they just said, we've got some spots for guitar lessons. I just thought, do you know what, why not? And I just fell in love with it straight away. I mean, what I liked about it was that I could make music quickly. So the first things I ever learned off when I worked out how you read tab was the riff. So basically, School of Rock came out at that time as well.
Oh, yes.
So all I wanted to do was basically learn those riffs that Jack Black plays at the start. So I wanted to learn
Deep
Iron
Purple.
Man. Yeah, Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water, Iron Man.
When it Cream Sunshine of Your Love.
Yep.
Highway to Hell. And
the actual song in the School of Rock as well, probably.
Yep, that was it as well.
Yeah.
It's all thanks to Jack Black, basically. But I just wanted to... and the Mission Impossible and James Bond riff. I could work that out on one string. So as soon as I could get
that. First and second fret, innit?
Yeah, I was so happy. But yeah, so that was it. And then my first sort of people that I really loved was like John Frusciante from the Chili Peppers. Because I like the fact that he could do a lot of chord work as well as obviously, some really, really great solos. Got into all your normal stuff, Hendrix, Jimmy Page. Got massively into 80s hard rock and metal. That's still one of my favourite things. I absolutely loved, Guns N' Roses. I loved Motley Crue. I loved all of that. I sort of always thought, and Joe Bonamassa was an absolutely huge influence. Absolutely love his playing. He's just so diverse, so articulate. You know, he can play so many things so well and say so much. He's one of my all-time heroes. And then as obviously you know, Sam, as years went on and you sort of your tastes develop and change, because I think it's up to about 24, 25 they say is when you're most susceptible to new sounds, and then you actually have more of a concept of nostalgia, so you kind of revert back a little bit more, you feel more comfortable in what you've listened to. But I loved all the metalcore stuff, so I went through massive Killswitch Engage and all those sort of bands. Had the teenage angst of Slipknot and My Chemical Romance, you know, my emo years, and then went through to like harder alternative rock bands like Alter Bridge. Went through bands like Parkway Drive and, you know, Bring Me the Horizon and all that stuff. Went more into the gent stuff like Periphery. Absolutely love John Mayer, one of my all-time, probably Joe Bonamassa and John Mayer, I would say, are my two biggest heroes. Yeah. But yeah, just so you can see, and then I did the academic thing with music as well. So I did all like my guitar grades and stuff. So I got more into jazz and gypsy jazz in particular. So yeah, and I've been around the block.
Very diverse. That's what we like.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff in there.
I'm actually intrigued by your story, Sam. I've never actually asked you, who are your musical influences?
Well, funnily enough, before I learnt the drums, I wasn't a big music fan, to be honest. I used to listen. Well, my brother was into speed garage, MCing. You know what you hear on pirate radio stations. That's what he would listen to. And then my sisters, they were very good at musical knowledge. They knew, like, if you heard the start beat of a song, they'd know exactly what song it is. So, in terms of actually playing an instrument, no one in my family plays an instrument. It was only when I got to in school, I was like sport. I like sport. I was into football. I was playing football teams. I liked every kind of sport and stuff. And then when for some reason I just my mum said to me, "Why don't you learn an instrument?" Because in junior school I was going to learn the saxophone, but I think back then the music lessons were very expensive and we just couldn't afford it back then. And then went into school, and yeah, my mum said to me, "Oh, why don't you learn an instrument now?" And I thought, right, guitar, and I thought I have to learn drums. And as soon as I started learning the drums, yeah, it just took me straight away. I just never looked back and never regretted it at all. In terms of musical influences, I was listening heavily a lot to Green Day. Green Day is one of my biggest influences ever. It wasn't even their old albums I started listening to first. The first one, because 2003 was when American Idiot come out, and that's kind of, I started drums about a year after that. So American Idiot I used to listen to religiously all the time, and I learned every single song on that album. And even me and Lewis used to meet up after school, and we'd come by mine and we'd play American Idiot, Jesus of Suburbia, going into Saint Jimmy, or we'd play every single song, and that was just a huge influence. Then I started getting more into pop punk and going into Blink-182, you know, Green Day, Motion City Soundtrack, things like that. And then I went through a bit of a jazzy blues stage. I started liking Herbie Hancock and things like that. Then me and Lewis were playing in a blues band after school. We was doing things like that, and then started college, and then we started meeting all sorts of people, didn't we, Lou?
Yeah.
And I never ever heard of death metal or black metal or, you know, screamo. I was never listening to it, so that's when I started hearing bands like a band called Job for a Cowboy. It's all, and Waking the Cadaver. These are like very, very heavy bands, and I started listening to them. Looking back now, I feel it's a bit of an idiot because they are. It's so, the tuning is. Lou, what's a really low tuning? Drop A, probably, isn't it?
Yeah, that's nice and low.
Yeah, it's more or less, it's like you're listening to five basses playing, basically, with someone screaming their lungs off over the top.
Strings have got a natural camber. So the strings on the guitar just look like they've got a natural sort of bend. They're just sitting there.
That's it, yeah. But they would listen to it, and then I don't think Lewis really got gripped with that because Lewis really liked John Mayer and the Chili Peppers, and I kind of went down the route of drumming like that. But then as soon as I left college, I got more into back into pop punk, and nowadays I'm into absolutely everything. I'll play anything. I'm happy to play anything, but the big genre that I'm into at the moment is gent music. So bands like Periphery, bands like Issues, and things like that. Because the drums in it are very jazz based, but they're played under a heavy instrumentation. all the ghost notes and intricate fills and things. And that's what I'm really into at the moment. So a drummer called Matt Halpern, he's drummer for Periphery. He's a massive inspiration to me, and he's just absolutely phenomenal, amazing drummer. So yeah, that's kind of my backstory really. And me and Lewis played in multiple bands growing up. We was playing T-Rex songs. They come around to mine, play Led Zeppelin. We'd just play. We went and saw Jimi Hendrix tribute live near us, and back in the day. And yeah, we kind of played loads of stuff together. But personally, I've never been a big fan of like 80s rock. I don't know why. I've just never really been able to get into it. Even 90s I started coming into now, like Stone Roses and Tears for Fears and things like that. But I know Tears for Fears more 80s, but they did do a few 90s bits as well. But yeah, that's just my personal opinion. So that's kind of my backstory.
But I guess off the back of that, and obviously, you know, growing up and playing in bands together and gigging, obviously I was quite intrigued to find out, Zach, like what the music scene is like for you in California, because obviously it's got such a rich history, the States and California in particular. I know obviously California's huge, so obviously you're more from the San Francisco area, aren't you? I don't know, are you originally from that area or?
So I used to live down in Southern California, closer to Los Angeles, and then when I turned 18, I moved up to the San Francisco area to go to school at UC Berkeley.
Gotcha. And so, obviously, we'll probably tell you a bit about our local music scene. But I mean, what's it like when you're growing up and you're learning, you're getting your first gigs? You know, are there good turnouts? Do bars and try and take advantage? Do they try and turn sort of bars into music venues when they're not really? You know, are we quite intrigued to see what it's like for an aspiring musician for you out there?
Yeah, I remember the first gig I ever really played, and I wasn't supposed to be in there because it was a bar and it was like after 10 o'clock. But this is a very, not a lot of people know this story. This is a very like interesting thing. So I was at a bar one time, a sports bar during the day with a couple of my friends, and we were all just, sitting, shooting the breeze, making fun of each other, just doing our normal friend thing. And we're talking about music, and this guy turns around from this other booth and he's like, "Hey, you guys play music?" And we're like, "Oh yeah, we play music." And like, "What do you play?" I'm like, "Oh, I play the saxophone." He's like, "Oh, that's the best instrument." I'm like, "I agree, totally agree." And
buy me a beer.
What? Yeah. And it turns out his son was on the football team at my high school. He was like a freshman, and I was a senior. I was just about to graduate, and so I would see this guy Rob occasionally at football games. And every time I saw him, I'd play him. I'd play him some sort of like, he'd like play me a lick, play me something, and I would just play him something. And then one time he's like, "Hey, let me get your phone number. Like, you should come play at this bar." And I'm like, "Oh, that sounds cool." And I went to his house beforehand, and like he basically had me learn the Born to Run solo on the spot. I never even heard Born. That was the first time I heard Born to Run. I'm like trying to like learn the solo like in front of him, on his front porch. And he's like, "Yeah, let's play that later tonight at the bar." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, I don't know how that's gonna work. This guy was the most mysterious guy ever. Like I debated, I was like, should I really like be doing this right now? But like it just seemed like something cool, And so we get to this, it's like a dueling pianos bar. So it's like open for the general public, and then at some point, I think it's like 9 or 10, it's only 21 and up. And we get there at 10. So the bouncer, me and like 20 of my friends are all ready to go see me play, and the bouncer's like, "Absolutely not, you can't go in." And so and Rob isn't there yet, so I'm just like, "Oh, this is so awkward. I just invited all my friends for this, and no one can go in. I can't even go in and play." And then Rob shows up, he goes in for like 2 minutes, he comes back out. All of a sudden, like the bouncer's like telling me I can come in. I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." And I'm like, "Rob, I'm not going to play this gig. All my friends are outside." And he's like, "Okay." 2 minutes later, all my friends are at this bar. And so, like, in the VIP section, I'm like, what pull does Rob have that, like, what's going on here? Don't tell the cops, by the way. I don't want them coming and searching at my door. It was a lot of years ago. And so I end up playing alongside a couple actual professional musicians that were there. And this guy, like the guy I was standing next to playing, this guy was incredible. Like he was hitting F7 like it was nothing. He was on tenor. He was crazy. But it was just so much fun being there and with my friends. And that was the first time I ever played a gig. Someone offered me some alcohol, and I turned them down for everyone's sake.
I'll put a disclaimer in the video.
Please do. That was the first gig I ever played, and that was really cool. But generally the music scene was like, I found gigs here and there with that alt rock group, and local neighborhoods would sometimes have small little tiny festivals I would go and play. But in college, I played a lot of gigs through the university. We'd send out like trios or quartets, like jazz quartets, to go play at campus events and off-campus events, and I did a lot of those. But I mean, the music scene is kind of what you make of it. You can always find opportunities if you push hard enough, but obviously, if you don't put in the effort to finding those kind of gigs, you're not going to play any of them.
Yeah, that's understandable. So, I mean, from your perspective, Zach, I mean, what do you want out of music? Is it just a hobby, or would you like to do it full time? What's your kind of ambition from the musical side of things?
Yeah, right now it's a serious hobby. It's one that, like I said, I'm not going to put out a video if I don't feel good about it. I want to make sure, like, sometimes I drive myself crazy, like doing a lot of takes. Like I did a lot of takes for the video I did with you guys because I was like, I convinced myself that I had some things that were slightly off the beat, but I listened back and they don't sound like off the beat at all. But I just didn't want to mess it up. I have a strong commitment to making sure the stuff that I put out meets my standards, even when my standards are kind of ridiculous. But it's just what I see myself in the future doing is hopefully having some sort of regular gig where I go and play at whatever establishment it is, and it can be for money. It doesn't have to be for money. Ideally, I'd like to make enough money in my job and just have that and be able to do my hobby on the side, like most hobbies are done. But the way it differs from a regular hobby is that for me, I feel like I have my personal brand, my personal like name attached to the videos I put out, and so I don't want to put out videos if I don't think they're my best work. But I wonder, I wonder about this because when I came into contact with you guys and Sam first shared your channel with me, I was looking at it and I clicked on it. I listened to your videos. You guys had a couple cool covers from years ago. You had one that had a lot of views. It was a Miley Cyrus cover, I think it was.
Yep.
Yeah, that was Adore You. Yeah, that was I think it was like a third single from that current album. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Had like 30-something thousand views on it. Quite a lot of views. And I was like, that's a pretty good stuff. That's pretty good stuff. And you had 1,000 subscribers, which is at the time I first talked to you, which was like I had like 50, so that would have been like 20 times the amount of subscribers I have. But I saw that and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I saw then this is when I was like, whoa! I saw a video from like 2009 of Ryan talking to someone. And Ryan had hair. And
that was a long time ago.
He had hair, all right.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa! This guy's got long hair. Like, what's going on here? And he's on TV talking about his band. I'm like, whoa! Like, how long has this group been around? And so that was one question I had for you all, which is pretty much turning the question you just asked back onto yourselves is like what's this like for you? What's the goal all about with the Peppermint Apes? And yeah.
Well, it's one of those things. Yeah, we have been going for a long time. Back when we all went. Back when I had hair. Well observed. It's been 11 years now that the project was first formed. There's been a few lineup changes along the way. Toured America, which was really good. LA, New York, Texas. And I think the plan was the first 3 to 5 years. I mean, my dad, who was, like I say, a big influence, to me on the bass, and he ended up managing the band. And he had good contacts, and I think the plan back then was to get a record deal, was to try and chase the dream, was to be famous. And I think the plan now is it's a bit of both. I think now it's more of a hobby. We've all got our careers, haven't we? We've all found what we're happy with. I mean, obviously everyone can go around and say what they do. I mean, I'm an estate agent. I love what I do. There's days when I hate it, but on the whole, personally, I really enjoy my career. But you can't beat music. That will always be number one. And I think now it's a hobby. We've taken away that pressure, which is good. We don't have to worry about, are we going to, how many hits are we going to have? Are we going to impress this A&R person? That's kind of gone now. But just like yourself, Zach, we've all got that personal pride and, perfection that we want when we release anything. It's personal branding, like you said. Whatever you pull out, you want to give it the best you can. And I think our goals now really is to be in a situation where we can have more subscribers. 1,000 subscribers, like you say, Zach, I suppose to a lot of people it's really good. So it's a big fan base, but also to a lot of people we're a tadpole in the ocean. It's kind of like it's a bit of both, isn't it? So we've got 6,000 likes on Facebook, which is good. I think we just want to keep growing the fan base, but equally we kind of want to help inspire people. So the reason why we do these podcasts and we put vlogs out, we know what it's like to be young musicians and even older musicians, and you almost think, what's the point? Music's such a ruthless business. If we can we don't claim to be celebrities in any shape or form, but if we can kind of share our journey as everyday men, well, maybe it might just help some people and we can learn from others as well. But I think that's what we want, really. I think we'd love to do it full time and have it as our full revenue at some point, but it's now just become a really good fun hobby. I mean, what do you think, guys? What would you guys say in terms of ambition with the band? Go to you, Sam, first of all.
Yeah, I was the same, Rye. When I first started out, it was to get the dream, be a rock star, sell out arenas and things like that. But then as you get older, you realise it's not that easy. And I think you guys will admit, I mean, we've played gigs where, well, not us as the Apes, but in previous bands, we've played gigs where there's been 4 people and one of them's like my dad or something as well. So we've played gigs like that and you think, it's a little bit far away from selling at Wembley. You got Chinnery's. Chinnery's is a venue sort of near us, Zach. It's like it was the go-to venue back in the day. The
go-to local venue.
And I've played gigs there with a full house and I've played gigs there with, as I say, 4 people and one of them was my dad. So there is all that, and then you kind of you want to just keep gigging and gigging and gigging, and then it comes to a point where you think I'm not really getting anywhere. Then you kind of lose the drive, and I think all 4 of us have gone through that phase. But then as you get older, you think, it's going to become it's a bit more of a hobby now, and I see it personally as a hobby. But if anything comes off the back of it, I'm not trying as actively anymore to try and make it as a musician. I'm just trying to do it for fun. But if anything did come of it, I'm not going to turn it down. If someone come up to us and said, look, we'll put yous on a tour of holiday parks around the UK or something, if it's something like that. Butlins is a massive holiday place over here and big celebrities and bands play there. If it was something like that, then happy days personally to me. How about you, Lou?
But sorry, Lou, just before you come to on that, what you said, Sam, about touring, holiday camps and stuff. That's something that we are looking to achieve. We are looking to do more functions and, not necessarily have it as our main income, but just have some great gigs lined up next year.
That's the thing. It's also to be the band to have. We don't necessarily want to. Well, I don't necessarily want to be famous, but if we was the band to have at a wedding, the band to have at a venue or a function, and the band to book, then that's job done for me personally. You're gonna at a wedding we could easily get £800 each if you was to charge that amount. If you was the band to have, so that's kind of my goal to have, is just to be on the end of people's tongue when it comes to I need a band for my wedding. I know a band. There you go, done.
Over to you, Lou.
Yeah, no, for me, like it changes. I don't think there's many musicians that don't start with dreams of sort of stardom, sex, drugs, and rock and roll and all that. Especially if you liked 80s hair metal, just not dusting off any spandex. Yeah, so you need a physique for that, Chris.
Snake hips.
Yeah, you need long legs.
Yeah.
But yeah, these days, to be honest, again, I'd like to be a good, professional, well-respected local band that people want, obviously, but the other part, I want to just create as much content as possible. And I think the one positive out of this whole kind of lockdown thing for everyone all over the world is that it shows you really how easy it is to what you can make happen. I sort of want to, knowing that how easy it is now, I'd like to look back in years and just have so much content that I'm proud of, because like even if you look back at our parents' generations, everything was VHS tapes, or it was old camcorders and things. Now all of our kids or whatever, when they grow up, or from looking at stuff from us, will be on a phone, accessible anytime, anywhere. I'd love to have loads of content that I'm really proud of. Like you said, Zach, you want to attach your name to something that you really value. So I think, for me, it's to be well respected. Like Sam said, that people want you to be, the band they go to, but also with this YouTube stuff, just have a lot of content that I'm really proud of that I can share to people and say, yeah, I worked on that with this guy and that guy, and we put a lot of time and effort into it, and be proud of what's up there, which is what's been great about collaborating with you. It's been so much fun, it's been so easy, and it's really opened my eyes to like what's possible. You think like it took an email and that's it, and we've put together something to between us all. It's awesome. I think that would be great to do more of that as well.
I agree.
What about you, Chris?
You probably don't know Zach, but I was friends with Ryan before I joined the Peppermint Apes. Me and Brian were actually in another band. That we were just like a covers function band that played around here. And as Ryan knows, it didn't really go anywhere, did it, Ryan? But
it had potential, didn't it?
But so Ryan sort of, I suppose you would say, enlisted me into the Apes. It was just a few conversations we'd had down the pub, and it sort of made logical sense, didn't it? Really. But what I want out of it is the same as what the other three really want. Is to be, like Sam said, the band that people want at their wedding, their function. But also, I've never had the opportunity to do anything like we're doing right now, or any YouTube stuff or anything like that, and I'm really enjoying sort of pushing myself that way with it as well. So it is to be also, I'd love to be really successful on YouTube as well.
That's good that you say that, Chris. And I think another thing as well, I just want to say, guys, is another sort of goal I think that we all want as well is just to build up the brand of the Apes again, let the subscribers grow, because I think as well as saying, do you know what, we want to focus on functions and be the go-to band, for people's weddings and parties, etc. I think we all would like to release an album one day, even if it's just for ourselves. But I think we would love to just create a really good album that we're really proud of. I've been writing songs for years. I haven't for a couple of years, but we did the first album, Against the Wall. Lewis, you've been writing songs. Sam, you've written songs in other bands, and Chris, you're starting to write brilliant songs. You're starting to come out. So I think that's got to be a goal for us in the future. Is just keep doing what we're doing, have fun, and then maybe release some of our originals as well.
Yeah, I just got a question for Zach. So we've spoken about your history, Zach, and what you've done. Have you got any future plans and things like that? What's coming up in the future for you?
Musically?
Yes.
Right now, currently I'm not in any bands. I did this video with you guys, which was a lot of fun. A couple people used my video to take my saxophone solo and put it in there. So I made a number of friendships with relatively I don't want to say small, diminutive, but not huge following YouTube channels, but nice people.
Yeah.
And a couple of them have reached out and wanted to collaborate on a couple of things, similar to yourselves. And so right now I have a few of those kind of, one of them wants to cover a different 1975 song, and someone else just generally says they want to collaborate. I said, that's great. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. And then other than that, I just have other things I'm learning myself. I just started getting into making instrumentals. So I bought myself a MIDI controller so that I can plug directly into a DAW and kind of work with that. And so I've started making some, not anything super advanced, and mixing and mastering is something I do not know how to do, which is fun, but I kind of started with that as well. So I'm just trying to expand, just trying to expand my horizons, basically. Kind of like you were saying, Chris, you're looking at YouTube to expand what you do, and I'm looking to expand what I do as well. But, I'm really open for any kind of musical stuff. That's what I like most about myself as a musician, is that whatever it is, I'm pretty much available, and I'm, excited to do something new. I don't have to I know a lot of my friends that are working specifically on albums right now, and it takes up so much of their time, and it's worth it for them. But I like to be able to bounce around from thing to thing and contribute here and there,
Yeah. Brilliant. And especially because of the situation the whole world's in at the moment, I suppose we've got that little bit of extra more time on our hands to help our fellow musician. I suppose if we was all working full time and all out at our jobs and stuff, I suppose it would be a bit harder to collaborate with musicians, especially in the time frame that we got this cover out in.
And I guess on that, Zach, in terms of, do you happen to have your we can put all these in descriptions and stuff. Do you know any of your channel names and things on YouTube? Just for if people decide that they'd love to work with you, and they're blown away by what you do. Like, is there a way to contact you or to look at your, look at the content that you have out at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. My YouTube channel is currently named Zach Levine. I had it as Sax Levine, which is I'm gonna register that as my official artist name because it's just like it's just such a, and I think because that's my Instagram. My Instagram handle is also just Sax Levine. I kind of like it. I saw someone do like Saxel Rose once, which I thought was kind of funny, but it just works so well with my actual name. So probably gonna be switching over to Sax Levine very shortly. I have like my work situation got complicated, and I have like 2 functions of my Zach Levine Music at gmail.com thing, and I'm transferring one of them over to a different email so that I can just have Zach Levine Music be for Sax Levine, the YouTube channel. So soon it will be Sax Levine, and it'll be Sax Levine on like Spotify and stuff like that too.
That's a great name.
We'll attach all that to this description as well, just in case anyone wants to be lazy and click a button.
Yeah.
In regards to the apes, we are going to be working with Zach more in the future. We are currently, working on, I think, 2 as of this date. We are working with 2 extra songs to work with Zach, and Zach's thankfully has agreed to help us out on these as well, which is absolutely brilliant. So hopefully we'll get these out in the next few weeks.
He's going to be charging the big bucks soon.
Yeah.
Rightly so, but then this is the just a quick point is the more established you become on YouTube and stuff, then you're a professional service. So rightly so, then you start putting a premium to your services. Really, that's what I would do. If you're a session musician, technically, aren't you? So you want to be paid for your services. I think that's a fair point there.
I agree. I mean, right now I'm just not. Right now, I feel fine where I'm at financially, and I'd rather just be contributing. And like you kind of mentioned earlier, Ryan, it's like a lot less pressure. When you do these things for money, you're kind of limiting some of the things you can do creative wise because I could give you something and Sam might turn around and be like, "We paid you. Like, why didn't you do it this way?" And, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I knew.
I'm not saying Sam would do that. I know Sam's not a diva, but still.
I used to know. In another band I was in years ago, we had a drummer come over from Ireland, and he used to be his full-time job was as a drummer, and he would gig. I think he said to me he had to gig Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evening to even be able to literally scrape by. And he said that he was in the end he resented playing music so much that he just couldn't. I think he took 2 years off just because he just could not cope with it. He just ended up hating what he was doing because he was relying on it as a financial for financial stability, which is just. I think you've got to have a balance with it, really. But I mean, I think for me, if I couldn't do it as a full-time job because I'd end up resenting it as well, and I'd end up the pressure and the stress of it. I'd end up hating it. So.
I have one more question. You don't have to put this in the podcast if you don't want to, but I was just wondering because you guys have so many different influences, and I guess because I've only heard a couple cover songs, I was wondering like what you guys describe as your genre, and if you were going to do an album, would it be one genre or would it be like kind of like transversing across multiple genres?
Brilliant question.
Yeah, well, I think we can all jump into that because we have got originals content. We could send you it just to listen to. It'd be interesting to see what you think, but
sure.
I've just totally hijacked Ryan's point, but I just totally stolen it. But it's a really good question because everyone likes so many different things. It always tends to meld well. Like if it didn't gel, I don't think we would still play music together over the years. We've all kind of, especially like I just use Sam and I as an example, but we kind of grew up and went through the different genres together at the same time. But what you will find, because the band's had different lineups over the years, and there is originals content from all of it, but it's all quite different. So like when Ryan and the band originally did really well and they went to the States and all those kind of things, it was a brilliant case of perfect time because they were basically, you were like, 17, 18 at the height of the indie rock thing. So they were doing that sort of retro 60s, that kind of music. And then sort of when I got into the band, it was more sort of very pop, catchy melodies, but with more harder rock bass guitars. That was what my thing was. So I sort of brought more of that. Now I don't really know because of Chris's blues influence and Sam's like penchant for intricate drumming, and Ryan's come on a lot for a vocalist. I think we'd want to work more on some original stuff now. I've got no idea how it would come out now. I'd imagine it would jump between genres.
I definitely mirror what you said there. I think it would be a little bit bluesy, but I mean, I was sort of thinking, listening to your voice, Ryan, over the years, I think you've got quite a sort of a rocky, soul-y voice, and I think that genre of music really suits you. So I think it would obviously, all of our influences would be brought in, but I think it would sort of go down that sort of bluesy soul, probably a little bit sort of, rock, and still with the indie influences that you originally had as well. So I think it would go down that road, really.
And just to turn that question around, Zach, obviously I know you said, like, for the future you're looking at doing some instrumentals and things like that. Are you hoping to kind of cross genres and do your own thing, or is it something that you've got an idea in your head of where you want to go and what you want to try and do?
I really have no idea at this point. I mean, I like so many genres. I like, as I said earlier, just playing all these styles is appealing to me. So, I'm going to have to start figuring it out and kind of take it from there. But for now, I'm probably not going to create a ton of original stuff anytime soon. I might try to do like one track, maybe like an instrumental track that's kind of bluesy, kind of smooth, and just see how that turns out.
Well, I think it's been a really good evening for us, and middle of the day for you, Zach. It's been absolutely great chatting to you. We really appreciate you coming on. We thought it was just getting to know you and working with this track. We just thought it'd be so much fun just to bring you on and just have a chat and find out more about you and, what you're all about and what your influences are. And it's been absolutely brilliant getting to know you, and just to collaborate with was a totally different thing to what we're used to. So it's been absolutely great. But yeah, we just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you, and I thought we'd throw it back to you to sign off for the day/evening.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you guys having me on the podcast. This is the first time I've ever done a podcast, so hopefully I didn't talk too fast or too slow or too loud or too soft, but it was great. It was just a regular chat, and you guys are just great group of guys to chat with, and I really enjoy getting to know you guys as well, and I really enjoyed playing with you guys, and that was awesome. Like you said, it was crazy how it was just, some random email and turns into this video that's, doing well and people are really enjoying. I know you guys have been looking at the comments. I've been looking at the comments as well. Just, people are saying really a lot of nice things, and, just a cool project. And it didn't take very long either. That's the beauty of all this technology. We can really collaborate with each other. And yeah, I'm just excited to collaborate in the future with you guys.
And hopefully when the song's out, the universe will blow up and we'll be on the way to the stratosphere.
Making our millions.
Yeah. Like Sam's original dream.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Right, well, thanks for joining us tonight, and on to the next one.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
So thanks for watching our podcast, guys. We've got loads more coming soon. Please remember to hit subscribe, the notifications bell, and leave us a comment. Cheers, guys.